starts right now.
A 61-year-old mother dies behind bars in Bexar County. Her family blamed the county, but a jury said otherwise. We're going to speak with the family who was left behind in the case. And this.
And then after everything stopped, I looked out the window and the police officer was down right in front.
3 police officers shot in Houston. The latest on their conditions, what happened with the suspect in all this. And we're going to hear from a man who was caught in the middle of all that chaos. But first, want to get some breaking news right off the top here. We have a crew on the scene of a crash, but investigators say someone also fired a gun in this case. Luckily, Bexar County deputies say no one was hit in the gunfire.
However, someone was hurt in the crash. One person was taken to the hospital. Deputies in Bexar County say that this may have stemmed from a road rage incident. The crash happened just southwest of Bexar County near Kinney Road and Briggs Road. Deputies are speaking with witnesses now. Of course, we're going to keep you updated as more details become available.
She spent her final months of life in jail. Her family questioned who was to blame for the 61-year-old Janice Dotson Stevens' death.
Now, this week, a federal jury ruled that Bexar County and University Health were not responsible. But despite all that, Dotson Stevens' daughter tells the Night Team's John Paul Barajas that the legal battle was worth it.
Police arrested 61-year-old Janice Dotson Stevens on July 17, 2018. Charged with the misdemeanor of trespassing on private property, she remained in jail nearly 5 months before dying. Her family blames Bexar County and University Health for not taking proper care of their mother, but a federal ruling has said neither of the entities are responsible.
It was disbelief. Ultimately, she was in their care for that extended amount of time, and everybody just let her refuse everything, knowing that she was severely mentally ill.
Michelle Dotson explained her mother suffered from schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. For that reason, she was supposed to be receiving medication, but court records showed she never did during her time in custody because she refused treatment. Dotson Stevenson eventually died from a heart disease that was worsened by her mental health problems.
She lacked the capacity to rationalize that she was actually refusing because she was, of course, in the midst of a schizoaffective episode.
Court records also showed a doctor recognized the 61-year-old's mental state had worsened, but could be brought back to competency with medication. A statement from University Health partially reads, the jury recognized that University Health's medical and mental health providers at the Bexar County Jail are caring and compassionate, and that they took care of Janice Dotson every single day. Throughout the past 3 years, the Dotson family also took on fire for not bonding their mother out. Her bond was $300, and only 10% of that is required, meaning $30 would have gotten her out.
I did not want my mother in jail, but if she's in a situation where she's in the hands of individuals that can assist her, then that's what we want it done.
Dotson says she's devastated to have lost the lawsuit, but that fighting for her mother was worth it.
My mother was a great mother, and I want them to know it was very difficult for her to raise her kids and manage her illness at the same time, but she did it, and I feel like she did a great job.
Dotson says now that all of this is over, they can finally begin to process their mother's passing. And as for the justice system, she says it needs drastic changes so something like this never happens again. The Bexar County Detention Center, John Paul Barajas, KSAT 12 News.
Thanks, John Paul. Switching gears now, the clock is ticking. You have until January 31st, 3 days right there, to register to vote for the March primaries. That's when voters will nominate their party's candidate for several races, including governor. Now, if you're going to vote by mail, you have until February 18th to apply for a mail-in ballot. You just have to make sure that you send your application to the right place, because it turns out some people have sent theirs to the county clerk's office. Not the right move. Leaders there say that the office got more than 90 applications, and all those applications were instead supposed to go to the Bexar County Elections Office on South Frio Street. If you have any questions about this process, you can call 210-335-VOTE.
New tonight, investigators say they broke up a drug trafficking web. Take a look at the dozens of people arrested in this case. Some of those arrests taking place right here in San Antonio. Investigators in Medina County say the case first came out of Hondo when police noted a series of drug deals in October of 2020. More law enforcement joined the case before spreading to many surrounding counties, even into Mexico.
We constantly battle in Medina County. We constantly battle the meth trade. But this was a different approach to try to take out a meth trade organization rather than individual dealers one at a time.
Investigators seized meth, heroin, guns, and $10,000 in cash.
The money was meant to help pregnant women and parents with young children. But a San Antonio nonprofit instead used some of that money on vehicles, out-of-state trips, and land for growing industrial hemp. And now former employee of A New Life for a New Generation has come forward to the Night Team's Dylan Collier to describe the confusing and chaotic inner workings of an agency that's now on the brink of collapse. It's tonight's Defenders Update.
How do we have $1 million contract? We have we can barely afford diapers and wipes.
This former caseworker of A New Life for a New Generation asked that we call them JJ out of fear of being retaliated against by nonprofit founder and president Markeisha Reed. A Defender's investigation late last month revealed substantial financial irregularities within New Life, including taxpayer money used to fund Reed's side business, a West Side smoke shop, to buy land registered in an industrial hemp program, as well as to pay for numerous trips out of state attended by Reed, her family, and some New Life staffers. All of the jaunts documented by Reed on her public Instagram page.
Everybody was aware that something was wrong financially, but nobody knew quite the extent of what was happening.
JJ says Reed at times missed payroll and that caseworkers were given inconsistent information on how many diapers and how much formula to provide clients. JJ is now the second source within the agency to say that New Life employees were used by Reed to help run her smoke shop, crippling the nonprofit's operations in the process.
More than half of the janitorial staff would be over at R&J's, and the half that was left over was so overwhelmed with all the work to be done on the west side, they didn't have time to go and take stuff to the east side.
The Texas Pregnancy Care Network, an administrator for the Texas Health and Human Service Commission's Alternatives to Abortions program, suspended New Life's reimbursements December 23rd, a day after our two-part series on the troubled nonprofit first aired.
The move dealt a significant blow to New Life as Reed laid off a majority of her staff, dropped down to limited hours at her West Side headquarters, and shut down her East Side location for most of January.
This, as new data released by HHSC shows that New Life is among the state's top recipients of funding. Its reimbursements of more than $1 million last fiscal year put it 10th out of 50 subcontractors taking part in the statewide program. HHSC officials refused to make Executive Commissioner Cecile Irwin-Young available for an interview, but in a written statement said the agency takes seriously any allegations of misuse of public funds. Quote, "We are currently discussing these allegations with our contractor and exploring options including appropriate corrective actions as outlined in our contract." JJ, who resigned from New Life late last year, believes it's time to make a change at the top.
I don't want the services to stop. I don't want New Life to be shut down. I want Keisha to be replaced with someone who is going to do and help the people they say they're going to do and help.
For the Defenders, Dylan Collier, KSAT 12 News.
Our defenders also sent emails to Reed's personal and New Life accounts, but never got a response. State officials haven't said what comes next for her nonprofit, but they did indicate that the group could be forced to repay the funding that it received. By the way, it's also unclear whether the Texas Attorney General's office is going to file a criminal case against Reed.
Let's go to Houston now. In a shooting that injured 3 Houston police officers, the suspect is now in custody after barricading himself in at an apartment complex. A witness who was working from his own home recalls hearing the shooting that left those officers injured.
It just sounded like 50 gunshots all happening at the same time. I had to dive on the floor because I did not know if something was coming through the window.
In this surveillance video obtained exclusively by ABC station KTRK, officers can be seen jumping from their vehicles, dodging gunfire, firing shots back. All 3 officers who were hit are expected to be okay. At last check, they were in stable condition. The suspect ended up stealing another car at gunpoint before he was eventually arrested. This comes days after a Houston area law enforcement officer was killed during a routine traffic stop. Turning now to the pandemic here at home. Hospitalizations have declined since yesterday. There are now 1,289 patients. That's good news. 263 are in the ICU. 123 are on ventilators. Metro Health also confirms 7 more people have died from COVID. San Antonio voters already gave the green light to transform several miles of Broadway, but bike lanes apparently won't be coming to Broadway as was originally planned. State officials voting to keep control of a 2.2-mile stretch of that road instead of transferring it to the city, which was the plan up until recently. The state argued reducing lanes to create bike lanes would create congestion. But it's a design that was been in the works for years and eventually became part of a 2017 bond that San Antonio voters approved. It's not clear what will not happen with those bond funds now, but the Transportation Commission says the city and state can work together as long as road capacity is not reduced.
New tonight, new leadership and a historic moment for Our Lady of the Lake University. It is welcoming its first Hispanic male university president. That's Abel Chavez. He is a former businessman and engineer and has a leadership role at Western Colorado University. He's going to take over in July after current university president Diane Melby retires. Chavez is going to be the 10th president for Our Lady of the Lake University.
It's still ahead on the Nightbeat, ambush-style robberies. That's what police say these suspects are accused of doing. But it's not just here in San Antonio. We're going to show you where else coming up.
Plus, another concern when it comes to 5G technology. We're going to tell you about the one group of people that could be left in the dark if they don't act quickly.
And you may recognize Moderna for its COVID vaccine. That's not the only work it's behind, though. What we're learning about their new vaccine to fight HIV. It's next on the Nightbeat.
Tonight, promising news on an HIV vaccine. The biotechnology company Moderna is conducting early-stage clinical trials of an mRNA vaccine to fight the virus that causes AIDS. Basically, it's a shot, and it uses the same technology as the COVID vaccine that millions of Americans have already received. The hope here is that this HIV vaccine is going to neutralize the virus. Infectious disease specialist Dr. Ruth Berggren with UT Health San Antonio says that it's an exciting trial, but there's still a lot that we have to figure out.
I actually did some of my infectious disease training when I was an infectious disease fellow. I worked on HIV vaccine development, and this has been a very long story. HIV is particularly difficult to create a vaccine for because HIV, unlike Omicron, unlike COVID-19, it has a sneaky way of integrating itself into your DNA and hanging out there. And it has all sorts of tricks for evading our immune system.
Yeah, so let's keep our fingers crossed on this. You know, HIV may not be something that you hear about as much as you used to, but in 2019, the CDC found that the Alamo City was one of the top 10 cities in the country with the highest growing number of people with the virus.
And now a quick look at some of the other top stories making headlines tonight. Several ambush-style robberies under investigation. That not only happened here, but also in the Austin area and Dallas-Fort Worth. Austin police released images of the 4 suspects they want to speak to. Investigators accuse them of ripping phones, tablets, and laptops right from their displays at several stores. In some cases, police say multiple people were assaulted and the suspects claimed to be armed. The men were seen driving a silver Mazda with temporary paper plates. If you can help in this case, call Austin's Crime Stoppers. That number 512-472-TIPS. Now another concern about that 5G rollout. 3G networks are actually going to go offline, meaning those older phones and the people who use them, they're going to lose connectivity, including calls to 911.
Older Americans are most at risk from this transition because, first of all, they're the group that tends to hold on to devices a little bit longer.
Tom Camber with AARP says this group may not be entirely prepared for the transition. AT&T, by the way, plans to shut down 3G next month. Other networks will follow suit by the end of the year. And a defining moment expected for the Supreme Court. Justice Stephen Breyer set to retire. President Joe Biden promising to nominate a black woman to fill that seat. His first choice believed to be 51-year-old Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. a former clerk to Justice Breyer, who was confirmed to the D.C. Court of Appeals with some Republican support last year. There are also other contenders from California, Georgia, and South Carolina. A decision expected by the end of February. And that's your Nightbeat News Flash.
Now let's take it outside right now. Our live cam here showing 410. Not that much activity right now, but I got to say, it's just a calm night out there, 57 degrees. This is more like it, Adam.
You like this?
Yes, I do.
This time of year. Well, we have a yo-yo effect going on in the temperature department again. And get ready for a strong cold front as we get into late next week. Before that, a few sprinkles, light showers tonight. We'll get into that in a moment. A brief warming trend. I mean, we're talking 70s early next week. And then a cold snap is likely to start next Thursday. So by this time next week, it's not going to be like last February, but you are going to feel it, and it's going to be noticeably colder outside. All right, let's talk temperatures. Let's get right to that. 37 this morning, 62 this afternoon. Hey, we had a little bit of sunshine earlier today, at least in northern Bexar County, not so much downtown. That helped temperatures a bit even over the airport. Port SA 58, Stinson still 61, along with Castroville. 52 right now in Bernie and 53 Comfort and Bandera. Fairly similar temperatures all across our area. 60 Del Rio, 58 Gonzales, and 56 Beeville. So tomorrow morning, most of us down in the low to mid 40s. Say 41 Hondo and Canyon Lake, 42 San Antonio, but some 30s as you get up into the hill country, low to mid 30s there. By the afternoon, not a big warm up, at least not tomorrow. That'll be for the days ahead. Tomorrow, most of us in the upper 50s for highs with a pretty stout northerly wind at 15 to 25 miles per hour and at times gusting up to about 35. So Timberwood Park about 55 tomorrow along with Helotes, Elmendorf, Lavernia 59 for the high temperature. This weekend, we're well into the 60s. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 70s. Then look what happens. We get into Thursday of next week. That strong cold front is through, and our afternoon high temperatures, the warmest we'll get, will likely be in the 40s by next Thursday. So get ready for a cold snap to come for the end of next week and maybe even lingering into that weekend. As for rain, we've got this little disturbance here, this dip in the upper level flow near Colorado, now moving into New Mexico. It's going to slide overhead tonight. With it, we have the low clouds. Already a few spritzes and sprinkles. We'll have a few light showers along and especially south of Highway 90, but don't get your hopes up for accumulations. Unfortunately, this is looking like a few hundredths of an inch at best, especially south of Highway 90 through about the morning rush hour, but mainly just low clouds to start the day tomorrow. Then we get sunshine. By the noon hour, a lot of sunshine, the sun returns, and it's going to be around for several days, all the way through Sunday. By Monday, that's when we have another disturbance. Could give us a few showers and non-severe storms, especially east of San Antonio. Maybe some appreciable rain then. And then Wednesday night, that's our next strong cold front. Again, not like last February, but you're going to feel it.
All right, Adam, thank you.
All right, a familiar face will be returning to the AT&T Center.
We welcome back Patty Mills, LaMarcus Aldridge with Brooklyn. Now Chicago comes calling tomorrow. On their team, DeMar DeRozan, and they have a big celebration planned for that return when we come back. You may be surprised about who keeps in close contact with him to this day. And Dan Quiz says he's staying in Dallas. Well, that's good news on one hand and perhaps bad news on the other. Coming up. Spurs star guard DeJounte Murray has a chance to break David Robinson's all-time franchise triple-double record starting tomorrow night when the Spurs host the Chicago Bulls. The same night the Spurs will welcome back DeMar DeRozan. This will be DeMar's first game back in San Antonio since his sign and trade deal with the Bulls this offseason that got him $82 million over 3 years, and the Spurs' Thaddeus Young and first and second round draft picks. And DeMar is flourishing in Chicago. He's named a starter for the East All-Star team. He has also helped the Bulls move up to number 2 in the Eastern Conference after Chicago missed the playoffs last year for the 4th straight time by averaging 26.5 points a game, the most he's been able to do since his days in Toronto. While the Spurs are struggling without a superstar, DeJounte is one in the making after scoring his 14th triple-double of his career in the 118-110 loss to the Grizzlies on Wednesday night. And you may be surprised that even though DeMar plays for another team, DeJounte is remaining in close contact with his former teammates.
Me and DeMar talk every day. We became really tight, and that's my brother, that's my family. We're always around each other, always talking. He called me after games, I call him after games, so ain't nothing changed, just the teams. I'm rooting for him, you know, he's rooting for me, he's rooting for this organization. You know, he's a classy dude, real professional guy, you know, so it'll be great to have him come in town and go out and compete and try to get a win.
All right, and all happens tomorrow night at the AT&T Center at 7:30.
Pro football coverage powered by Davis Law Firm.
Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn has withdrawn his name for consideration for the remaining head coaching vacancies in the NFL. Quinn selecting to stay in Dallas, which is great news for the Cowboys after he turned the Dallas defense around to lead the league in takeaways. But it's bad news for Mike McCarthy, who looks to be on shaky ground in Big D based on team owner Jerry Jones' reaction to their early playoff exit against the San Francisco 49ers, upset that the penalty problem that plagued the team throughout the season hit an all-time high in the postseason when the Cowboys were flagged 14 times for 89 yards. Now McCarthy's replacement could be on his own staff if the 2022 season gets off to a rough start. And reports tonight indicate McCarthy has been told he will be brought back for next season. Quinn was a finalist for the job in Denver, but the Broncos are hiring Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, while the Bears have decided to go with the Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus. And even though there are still openings in Miami, Jacksonville, New York, and Minnesota, Quinn has decided to stay put. With Dan Quinn's announcement, interest in Kellen Moore has been renewed. In fact, the Cowboys offensive coordinator has been asked back for a second interview with the Miami Dolphins. It's reported just yesterday that interest in Moore as a head coach in the NFL was waning, especially the way the offense performed. And the Cowboys' 23-17 loss to the 49ers that included being outgained 169 yards to just 77 on the ground and just one reception by CeeDee Lamb for 5 yards. The Houston Texans have interviewed Los Angeles Rams offensive coordinator Kevin O'Connell for their vacant head coaching position. That's after David Culley was fired after only one season in Houston. The interview, according to reports, took place before the Rams' divisional playoff game in which they eliminated the defending Super Bowl champs Tampa Bay Buccaneers and now facing the 49ers for the NFC Championship to decide who goes to Super Bowl 56. Jordan Spieth is returning to San Antonio to defend his 2021 Valero Texas Open Championship. That was announced today by the tournament officials. They'll be played at the TPC Resort Course, the JW Marriott, March the 28th through April the 3rd, the week before the Masters. Spieth will try and become the first Valero Texas Open champion to win back-to-back titles since Zach Johnson did it in 2008 and 2009. What makes it even more exciting for Jordan, he will attempt to do it on the 100th anniversary of the Valero Texas Open. And get this, Ben Crenshaw, Hale Irwin, Lee Trevino, and Tom Watson, all past Texas Open champs, will be here to help commemorate this historic anniversary. Meet the new head football coach at Holmes High School. Next. We told you about it last night on the Nightbeat. Now tonight, meet the man who's the new head football coach at Holmes High School. He's Pete Padilla, who comes to Holmes from Harlan, where he was a defensive coordinator for the Hawks under head coach Eddie Salas. In fact, he followed Salas to Harlan from Holmes High School, where he was the Huskies defensive coordinator from 2013 to 2016. Now he's back on the Holmes campus. Padilla is replacing Juan Morales, who was named the first head coach of the Northside School District's newest high school, Sotomayor, that will open this fall. So what does Padilla think of returning to Holmes?
Blessed to come back. Got a great administration, great staff, and the kids are just great. I mean, I went out, I visited with some other sports along with football, soccer, basketball, and everybody's been so receptive. The faculty is fired up that I'm back, and so that's always good to feel welcomed and to be somewhere you want to be, and I'm proud to be here.
Yeah, that's always a key, that everybody's happy to see you back on campus. By the way, Padilla is a Burbank graduate and played football for the Bulldogs. And I can actually remember covering him in his Burbank days just a few years ago for both of us.
Yeah, when the head Husky was just a pup.
Yes, exactly. And looking forward to tomorrow with the Spurs, because I hope we'll get a great reception for tomorrow. At the same time, I hope that's the game that DeJounte breaks the triple-double record.
That'd be great against one of his best friends.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We'll be right back after this.
So tomorrow, breaking out into sunshine by about noon, 58, near 60 the high. We'll be into the 60s, near 70 over the weekend. And then next week, some 70s until the next strong cold front hits Wednesday night. That's going to put a dent in our temperatures. It's not going to be like last February, but we're going to have a string of much cooler days with highs most likely just in the 40s and some mornings in the 20s. Again, that's about this time next week.
So what you're saying is get out this weekend and enjoy it.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
That's it for the Nightbeat GMSA at 4:30.
Have a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow.